by Swami Vivekananda. Jai Hind, and a very warm good afternoon to our esteemed guest, Ms. Rujuta Prakash Japta, Dr. Jai Singh, Managing Director and Trustee, our respected faculty members, all the incredible women, and the wonderful students present here. I, Paridhi Sharma, am honored to be your MC for today and extend my warmest welcome to each one of you to Leadership Summit 2025, a gathering of visionaries and change makers shaping the future of leadership. It is my honor and privilege to have with us today Ms. Rujita Prakash Japta. Ma'am, may I have your permission to proceed? Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Rujita Prakash Japta is a dynamic second generation entrepreneur leading Sarge Test Plant Private Limited, a pioneering company specializing in test equipment manufacturing for engines, vehicles, transmissions, special test rigs, and electrical vehicle test systems. Under her leadership, Sarge established over 6,500 installations across India and overseas, serving 750 plus esteemed customers. Before joining her family business, she gained valuable international and domestic business exposure at Tata Steel Wire Division and Standard Chartered Grindlays. Beyond business, Ms. Jagtap has played a key role in prestigious industry channels. She was the first woman director on MCCIA's board 2016 to 24 and now serves on its executive committee. She is the current chairperson of BVG Pune and was the first woman chairperson of IACC Pune, where she remains on the board. Additionally, she is an independent director at Praj Industries and Praj High Purity Systems Limited. Her achievements have earned her multiple accolades, including the WWLC Award for Leading Women in Business twice, the Supplier Diversity Leadership Award by Cummins, and recognition as the only women finalist in the national level business competition drive into the big league by Vodafone, McLaren, Mercedes, and ET Now. She has been a keynote speaker at IIM Ahmedabad's Confluence, a panelist for Google's WEOW initiative, and featured on Sayadri Channel's Hello Sakhi. With her visionary leadership and commitment to excellence, Ms. Jagtap continues to drive inspire entrepreneurs, setting new benchmarks in business innovation and empowerment. Today, she'll be sharing her views on campus to corporate, a smooth transition. Please join me in giving her a warm welcome. I now request Dr. Jai Singh to kindly felicitate Ms. Rujuta Prakash Japta. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I request you to kindly proceed with that. So today, instead of a conventional presentation, we will take the form of an engaging and interactive fireside chat. This way, we will be able to dive deeper into Ms. Jagtap's incredible journey, making the discussion more dynamic and insightful. We have a set of thoughtfully curated questions that will guide the conversation, allowing us to uncover key lessons and takeaways at each stage of our career. Throughout the discussion, we encourage you to ask questions, share thoughts, and be a part of this energetic exchange. So let us begin. As the topic of today's discussion is campus to corporate, so how has your journey been from campus to corporate?
Right. So, firstly, at the very outset, apologies for the delay because I was at another event which got prolonged, which is also for the International Women's Day and awarding them. So, thank you for your patience and apologies for the delay. And I thank the entire team of IEBM, Mr. Marwa, and the entire team, Dr. Rupal, and the entire team. And I'm really, really happy to be here again. Come back again because I've come here earlier as well in your older auditorium, and it's really impressive the way your infrastructure is always, always the state of the art. It's really commendable there. So, thank you for this opportunity. So let me take you. I'll be obviously taking you through my journey, through the questions, and of course giving you takeaways as we go along. So my story is back in the day. I did my MBA in international business from the Symbioses in 2002, And straight after that, we had a family business. And my father was very keen that I join the family business straight out of my master's. And for me, I had a different thought process. I wanted to work outside, prove my own merit elsewhere on my own caliber, and then join my family business. Because typically, if you go into, I mean, if you're going to join the family business straight away, you'll be treated as the boss's daughter. Your mistakes will be camouflaged. You won't get to learn as much. That was my thought process. Of course, my father wasn't pleased with it, so he was hell bent on me joining directly. After a lot of discussions, and my mother actually was the one who convinced him. So again, and coincidentally on a Women's Day, I must give credit to my mother, who's a woman who has been instrumental in giving me that first chance, which I really needed at the beginning of my career. So I was given only 6 months by my father, and he said you have to join back after 6 months. That's the maximum that I can give you because the company was established in 1969 by him, and he's an alumni of COEP, a mechanical engineer. 69, he passed out. He got 100% scholarship to do his masters at Michigan State University, which he gave up because back in the day, these products which we manufacture, which is test equipment for engine vehicle transmission testing, were being imported in the country from only two manufacturers, one from Germany, one from UK, and nobody in India was manufacturing these products. So there was the need in the Indian market for an indigenous manufacturer. So he gave up his scholarship and he started this company in a veranda of his house and then a garage. So for him, it was right from day one, he started on his own. So he wanted me also to directly, join him because then company was more than 3 decades by the time I had done my post graduation. But then finally, I went to Bombay, joined, I also did my summer training with Center of Relays, and I worked with Tata Steel Wire Division for about 4.5 years and handled their international and domestic sales and marketing. And then after 4.5 years, I joined my father. Of course, the reason I stayed on more than 6 months was because I was learning a lot. I used to work on my own. Now, nobody had obviously, pressurized me to work long hours. I used to work 6 days a week, 18 hours a day. Of course, I wanted to accelerate my learning because I needed to come back to the company and join my father. So I wanted to accelerate my learning in the process. And I did this on my own. In fact, the bosses in Tata Steel used to say that you're not going to take your responsibility. You're alone working till, 1, 2, and 3 in the night and there's only workers apart from you in the company. So if anything happens, we're not responsible. I said, no problem. I take my own responsibility. And I think that is one important aspect that you have to have the fire in the belly. You have to take your own responsibility. You have to break the shackles if you want to learn something. I think that is something which I would, so as I said, I'll give you some uh, key takeaways which I think are very important. And that's how I actually learned. Even I used to travel to remote places on my own for work. I used to stay back to long, and I think that is what taught me a lot. Then I joined my father in business. There too, I didn't go up and sit in the cabin. I started to work on the shop floor because I wanted to learn the technology. So I used to make the products myself with the workers on the shop floor. That not only helped me learn the technology because I'm a non-techie in the tech world, because I'm a commerce grad and our company has mechatronics as an engineering base, which is our core competence. So I wanted to learn that, and therefore I worked on the shop floor. And in the process, I also built a great rapport with my workers. So I must tell you one thing. Again, not shying away from the background that I have. Though I had a commerce, non-techie background, I was in Tata Steel for 4.5 years, which is a metallurgy engineering background, which needs a metallurgy engineering background. There too, I went on the shop floor and I learned. Here again, mechatronics engineering was needed, but I learned it, as soon as I joined. So I think that's another thing. Even if you're not from the specialization that you're joining, you have to have the passion and the keenness to learn. And I think that is completely upon you. So I learned the technology, and of course, I won't say I'm at par with an engineer because that's not possible. But at least many times, most of my customers, even at Tata Steel, used to think I'm a metallurgy engineer, and here they think I'm a mechatronics engineer. So I think I've passed the test of understanding the technology a fair bit. So I did that, and I have four siblings. I'm not just the only one. I have two older siblings and a younger sibling. So all of them were in the business at some point in time, out of which my brother and I are in the functional part of the business. And my father, even at this age, at 79, he's fully actively involved in the company. So his style of teaching is not teaching at all. He doesn't handhold, he doesn't teach, he doesn't do anything. He's like you jump in the ocean, learn for yourself. That's how I learned. I used to observe him in the meetings. I used to observe, the interactions, and of course, I had experience of 4.5 years. But in my company, I learned through observation, and working on the shop floor. So I think that has been my journey from campus to professional world first, and then to my own family business. So that is another thing I want to give as a takeaway for just with a show of hands. Can you all tell me how many of you all have family businesses? That's a fair amount of number. And okay, out of this, another question, which may not be obviously a very obvious one, but how many of you would like to join your family business? Okay, that's much lesser hands. So I'm actually glad to see that because back in the day we didn't have a choice. Our my father obviously expected us to join the business. So here you all have the liberty to choose otherwise. But I must say to the few that raised your hands of joining our family business, the takeaway for you guys is do not join it immediately after MBA because you should work outside, maybe in a related industry. Because if you're going to get into whatever the field your businesses are into, try and work in the similar field at least for 3 to 4 years and then join your family business. Because A, you will learn a lot. B, you will actually empathize with employees even more because you're coming from a point of working as an employee and then going as an employer. So your empathy levels would be high. You would walk into the shoes that your employees are already in. So that really, really helps. So I think that is one thing, minimum 4 years at least, I would say, that you should work outside and then join your family businesses. It will add immense value to your business, to your employees, it'll be extremely beneficial because you treat them as family. You have that, EQ which is really high in that case, and you know how to treat employees because you've also worked as one. So I think that's another thing I'd say.
Okay. So the next question is, how different it is to work in a manufacturing sector, and what are the basic skills one must have if they want to continue in the manufacturing sector?
So in the manufacturing sector, first and foremost, I would say the skills by and large are the same in any sector. Obviously, in terms of you have to be persevering, you have to be having the attitude. I think today I would rate attitude as the number one parameter. To just give you an example, we used to recruit people from our field or somebody who's experienced in our field, but it's difficult to get. So I recruited the one person in sales and marketing who was not at all from our field. His English was also doable. Nothing. He's a Marathi medium, but his English was okay, okay. But his attitude is fantastic. I said, this guy I will recruit only for his attitude, and thankfully my prediction came true. He learned. He's been with us for many years now. I hand trained him. I completely trained him on everything. He picked up because he had the attitude to do it. So today his English has improved. His entire technical skills have improved. He's one of my best performers in sales and marketing. So I think even if he didn't have any experience from our field, he learned it because he had the attitude to learn it. My point is have the positive attitude. That will take you on a fast track and that will take you far. I mean, that is something you should always remember. Second will be obviously the qualifications. The first is your attitude, then, of course, qualification, which is suitable to that particular profile. Then again, integrity, perseverance, passion, sincerity, taking the team along. So, having a team working attitude is very important. That's what companies look for as well. See, leadership is one thing. Everybody is looking for intrapreneurs today. What is intrapreneurs? Entrepreneur is a person who starts the company or has succeeded into the family business. But intrapreneur is actually an employee who acts as an entrepreneur. So that employee treats that company as his or her own and treats that company as if this is mine and works accordingly. So they are called intrapreneurs. So I promote and I advocate the culture of intrapreneurship. And I think that is what most companies look for. And of course, nobody looks for hopping mentality. So when you choose a company, choose it wisely and stay on. If you're going to skip every few months, every few years, that's not considered to be um, very stable as for the companies. Companies look at that as a hopping mentality and not being, loyal, and that can go against you. You may think it shows great on the scene to have like so many companies in a shorter duration, but that's not actually the way companies perceive it. So I think, and manufacturing again requires you to work on the shop floor, requires you to work and if need be, you should be able to be flexible to work on the shop floor as well as remote travel and do everything that it takes because service industry doesn't have the manufacturing domain, right? Here you have the manufacturing and you have the function domain as well. So you have to be open to that. So, for instance, I wanted to increase diversity in my own company, but women were wearing shackles on their own. They're like, we won't travel to remote locations. We want to wait after 5 o'clock, and so on and so forth. Even young girls. So if you put shackles on yourself, you will not learn. If you want to learn, you have to remove all shackles and be ready to take on any opportunity that comes your way. I think that's another very important takeaway. I think I'd like to leave you guys with. So I've only worked in the manufacturing domain from 2002 till date. The only services industry I worked was in my summer training, which was 2.5 months with Sandra Brilliant. So manufacturing is a different ball game, but I told you the key requisites for that.
Okay. So, what is your take on automation and the new age technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, nanotechnology, big data, cybersecurity? All these. What are your views?
So, sorry, what's your name?
Paridhi.
Paridhi is again a very important question there because it's today we all know it's extremely crucial and extremely important. Not only obviously now we're talking about AI and generative AI and stuff like that, and we have so many of the platforms like ChatGPT and DeepSeek and others, but we started off with Industry 4.0 and IoT, IoT, all of these platforms earlier. So obviously, we need to be definitely upskilling ourselves to this. We need to adopt it or adapt it in our own companies because, and of course, whatever is relevant. Not everything is going to be relevant to my manufacturing setup. So whatever is relevant, we need to obviously get it implemented, and you need to know. Of course, fortunately, maybe you all have courses in your curriculum which would teach you that. If not, do that skilling on your own separately. Definitely very, very important. We ourselves are doing a lot of upskilling for our own employees through workshops, getting experts to talk, and having some site visits where it's implemented and all. In fact, in the next month, I am organizing a conference where I'm getting a Brazilian delegation. India is actually looked up upon because we are ahead of the value chain when it comes to these technologies. So therefore, in fact, there's a Brazilian delegation coming, 30 of them only to learn these technologies from us in Pune. And that is a perception and that is a reality. We as Indians are much ahead of the curve on that. So all of us really need to learn it, be in tune with it, because if we don't, it's not luxury anymore, it's a mandate. If you don't learn, your companies will suffer. If you don't adapt to the new technologies, you will perish. So you have to change and you have to adopt these technologies, as I said, whichever is relevant to your organization. And that is the way ahead for everyone. And of course, we see it happening today as well. So I think it's extremely important.
Okay. So the next question is, what made you take the leap into entrepreneurship?
So it was actually a second generation entrepreneurship. So it was obvious because my father was a first generation, and in India, typically Indian companies typically are not like Western companies where the founder starts it and if there's no succession, he sells it off. That's not how, or Europe is also like that, but predominantly India is known for having companies which are succeeded by the family. We have a lot of family businesses in India, and especially in Pune. We all know Pune is known to be one of the hubs of entrepreneurs, and there are companies which are hundreds of years old. So therefore, it was always known that I will join my father in business, and that was always, I mean, it was always, he was my role model. He was my, I always looked up to him. So that was always the plan to join him. So that was by default, I knew that I'm going to join him. And therefore, I always chose even the career in terms of working in a manufacturing domain before joining my father because we were into the manufacturing domain. So that has been the case because my father is a, entrepreneur.
So as you just said that you are a second generation entrepreneur. So what it is to be like a second generation entrepreneur and any challenges or difficulties do you face and how do you, or do you feel pressure to carry on the legacy?
Yes, a lot of very very relevant question again. I'll be very honest. I'm a person. I mean, by now you may have realized I'm a very candid person, and whatever is the reality, I'd always project it very correctly to you all because you all need to learn from these instances so that you all can learn and implement those in your organizations. So basically, when I joined my company, there were multiple generations in the company. Firstly, my own siblings, my father. So that's two generations, and within the generation, and there also there's a difference because my father started this company from scratch. My siblings had not worked outside; they joined directly after their graduation, and I was the only one who had worked outside for a while and come back into the business. So obviously, I came with ideas. I came with strategies. I came with a lot of ideas which I wanted to implement here. But they were obviously not accepted easily by my father because for him it's like okay, we are an MSME, which is a micro small medium organization. It's actually an MSME, And Tata Steel is a bigger organization. So when I used to tell him that we need to implement this, that I implemented in Tata Steel or Standard Relays, we implemented this, we should do it here. He said, no, those are larger organizations. So not necessarily what suits them suits us. So that is true. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to see what is more suitable and what is more tuned to your organization rather than getting what is, suitable to the other organizations. So there are certain things which I also thought were, so this was a very rational thing to say. And I obviously wanted to implement a couple of things which my father, after a lot of, you have to obviously present to him and make sure that he has a buy-in in the process and the consensus, and only then you can go in. So that was one, I think, challenging part. The other thing is we have multiple generations within our company. We have baby boomers and millennials and Gen Z, Gen Y, all of them. So I decided to work with all of them in a way that you take the energies and the zeal and the passion of the young generation and tandem it with the experience and expertise with the older generation. I mean, that's the best, sort of recipe for success, I would say, because you're taking them both. And the captive learning, which is there in the older generation, gets automatically sort of transferred into the newer generation by working together. And I think that is something that we needed to do, and I think that worked best. Even today, I document everything in a meeting. When my father is saying something, when all the experienced people are saying certain things, I'm documenting everything because this is something that you need to learn from their expertise, and then you can, get in your, ideas and tandem it, and it works perfectly well.
So as you just mentioned that you transitioned from corporate to entrepreneurship. So how has your transition been?
Transition was good. So as I mentioned to you, I worked on the shop floor, and then I obviously had, as I mentioned to you, initially, the implementation of certain performance management systems or ERP and other things that I wanted to do. There was resistance to that because there's always a resistance to change. But that is something that I sort of got my people to overcome by making them understand, counseling them, and making them understand the advantages of doing that. And transitioning, I think, from professional to my family business is a difference is where I was in Tata Steel, it's only the sales and marketing domain that I was looking after. So international and domestic sales and marketing is what I looked after there. So that was a specific domain. But when I came here, the entire canvas was there. So here, all the functions I had to look into. I had to obviously ensure that I had understanding of all the functions, how they operated, what are the challenges, how to ensure that the best practices are implemented in the company for the progression of the company, how to expand, how to diversify. So here it's like a 24 by 7 thing as well. But here the entire company belongs to you, so obviously you have to think holistically. In Tata Steel, it was just the sales and marketing domain, of course. So I end up, I would say, working a lot here, of course. There also I did, but here the dynamics are different. And here you are responsible for the people that you're working with, their lives, their families, all of those are dependent on you. So you have responsibility of not only your family, but all those 120 families that work with us. So I think that is what you have to always keep in mind and do everything in their interest.
So what are the initial hurdles you faced after shifting it to your own business, and what are the current hurdles that you still face in your business?
So initial hurdles, as I mentioned to you, sort of getting my father to in fact accept these new technologies of ERP and performance management systems and others to be brought in, and also certain other things that I want to implement. So I think that resistance was there, and finally he's my boss and he's the founder of the company, so I can't overrule anything he says. It is you have to have a knack of presenting to him and showing him where it's successful, and only then he will agree to it. Because he's also seen a lot of MSMEs have failures in a lot of these implementations of enterprise resource planning and performance management systems and other technologies. So he's obviously coming from a background of seeing a lot of companies, where it didn't work, and therefore you should ensure that show him a success story, a multiple success stories from our field, and then it will work. So those were the initial hurdles. Now, currently, I think the hurdles that we face is because see, when we started, it was a monopoly. We were the only ones in the business. Now we're 56 years in the business. So initially, it was 100% market share, 100% share of business. We didn't have competition, so we actually didn't have, and we didn't have any attrition either. People who joined as graduate trainees left after retirement. In fact, after retirement, also they were extended as consultants. But now there's a lot of coaching happening because now after liberalization, there is competition which has come in. And obviously, when competition comes in, then they start poaching your people. Customers poach your people as well because ours is a very niche field, okay? So obviously, when we train people, that's the like the hub for the customers. So the customers actually poached a lot of our people. I think over the last 56 years, hundreds of people we've lost to customers. But losing to customers is always good because they're going as ambassadors into the customers' companies. But obviously lesser to competition, fortunately. But that is obviously the challenge. One is losing people to customers in competition because customers, even if they take people, we are okay with that. But we have to then recruit, train, and deploy them. So that becomes a bit challenging because this specialization of mechatronics firstly was not there back in the day. It's come in fairly recently, last couple of years ago. So we need people from the mechatronics engineering background. So since we didn't have that specialization, we used to take mechanical, electronics, electrical engineering backgrounds, and then we used to train them on the rest of the specializations. So I think getting really technically savvy manpower is one challenge. I think that is the main challenge at the moment that we face. A lot of times these kids come for interviews and my father takes the interviews and they never manage to pass his interviews because obviously his technical knowledge is extremely strong and these kids unfortunately many a times have forgotten about their engineering knowledge after passing out. So that is what should not happen. You should be thorough with your knowledge whatever you've studied. So that becomes a bit challenging, I think. Yeah.
So, as I have read in your bio, that you are also on board of Maratha Chambers of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and the British Business Group. In fact, you are the first woman chairperson of ICC Pune branch for 2020-21, and was also the first woman vice chairperson of IACC Pune. How do you manage that with work, and what are the benefits of being a part of these chambers?
So again, very, very important question. Why I would like to talk about this is I again accidentally got into it because when I joined my father in business, my father was on the board of NCCI for many years, and he said, "Why don't you join?" I said, "No, I don't have time." There was another British business group and the Indo-American Chamber as well. So he said, "Why don't you join me?" I said, "No, I don't have time." But then he said, "Okay, let's apply. Anyways, it's a process of election. If you get elected, fine. Otherwise, it's okay." And I got elected, and then I joined MCCI and the British Business Group and the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce as a member first, of course. And because I initially as a member, I used to go for obviously anything to do with the automotive industry because I belong to the automotive industry. So there were delegations coming in from different countries, which are the automotive delegations coming in. So I'll tell you how I benefited in different phases, okay? Because that's important. As a member, how did I benefit? So as a member, when I went there, obviously I got to learn, different delegations used to come and actually present their technologies there, and they were looking at strategic alliances for with companies in India. That was there, and a lot of them talked about the developed technologies in their countries, which we can actually, learn from. The other thing is, of course, there was a lot of these upskilling programs and awareness programs where these new age technologies were actually very, very clearly, taught. And also, you learned from the implementations that were already in progress in other companies. The third thing was when you are a part of that, you have a lot of other MSMEs which are a part of that as well. So there's a lot of cross learning which comes through that. So I may be an MSME which has a problem, and you may be an MSME who has the solution to it, and the other way around. So when you are a part of this ecosystem, you are meeting so many entrepreneurs that if I have any challenge, I may look up to somebody else who has a solution, and that becomes like a family, out of a family. So for us, it's like a chamber is a family. So all the so members that you know there, they become friends of yours, and then they will actually help you out in case you have challenges, or you can help them out as well. They open the doors for you for their companies as well. So I think that helps tremendously. The other thing is scouting for new vendors, scouting for customers. So when you go for these events, you have to obviously ensure that if I'm going there, I'm going to be going with my brochures. I have to take the initiative to talk. That's another takeaway I want to give you guys. Networking is not easy. It sounds very, easy. It sounds very fancy, but it's not easy. You have to first and foremost go with your complete knowledge of what you're doing in terms of in your businesses or in your profession. And I used to go with my brochures and I used to meet people who are potential customers or vendors to me. I should discuss with them. And then obviously, you have to ensure that the potential customers converted into an actual customer eventually, for which you have to take the initiative. And obviously, what you're talking again has to have a lot of substance and it needs to be crisp. So that is another thing. So if you make the pitch in a way that is impactful, it'll always stay on in the mind of the person you're talking to. So that is another couple of benefits that you have from the chambers. And I've also helped a lot of people. For example, of course, I went on to become the first woman to get onto the board of NCCI, which was surprising to me because there's so many women in Pune, fantastic work they're doing, first generation entrepreneurs as well. But nobody wants to take that plunge. Nobody wants to take that, extra responsibility, which definitely demands time from you. And I took that on. So apart from my work, I was on these three chambers, which took a lot of my time. And therefore, I, of course, unfortunately, sideline my health in the process because when you're doing so much, you have very little time for health or your fitness and all of that. So that is something which got sort of sidelined in my case, but that should not happen in others. You have to have a work-life balance. So yes, in this case, chambers have benefited tremendously in all these areas, as I told you. And most importantly, when I became the chairperson myself, that time I ensured that I also help out people, and I continue to do so. I have helped out a lot of people to actually get businesses pro bono. All of this is pro bono, by the way. The chambers helping that I do is completely giving back to society without a single penny. In fact, we have to pay the highest fees for these chambers being on the or the top positions. So in fact, we are the ones at the chambers who are shutting out most, but giving back to all the members. And I even today continue to do that. I actually have helped people to foray into the international business, help them scale up. I'm also on a lot of these incubation centers, like the Power Institute, COEP Power has is meant for startups. So I'm actually on the panel of how for giving out the government funds. So we have to obviously evaluate the startups and then the ones who are eligible get the funding by the government because there's a stipulated funding to be used up in a stipulated time. So I'm a part of. I'm also the on the board of AIC Pinnacle, which is another incubation center, and also on the board of studies of Symbiosis. So I try to help out in all of these areas, and the chambers have been a pivotal role in my entire, you can say, journey, because of which I've helped a lot of people, and I draw a lot of satisfaction and happiness in doing that, and I continue to do that.
Okay, so you being in a leadership role yourself, what are your views on women in leadership?
So firstly, when I started off, I was obviously in Tata Steel. I was an employee, and there, surprisingly, I was the only girl in sales and marketing. Every other women or woman in the company was in a secretarial position. I'm talking about 2002. So I was quite surprised because Tata Steel, while being a big company with almost 1,200 employees at that time, the only women were in HR, I think one or two, and one or two in finance. And in sales and marketing, I was the only one. So things have changed from then till now, of course, I'm sure, because a lot of companies are doing a lot of initiatives on diversity and inclusion. They're having creches at the working place. They have pick up and drop facilities. They have three shift operations with all safety norms put into place. So we see a lot of things changing now. But when I started off, I'm trying to tell you, when I started off in 2002, there was hardly any diversity. Things have changed now tremendously. I see a lot of women starting like, in fact, now because of the Startup India movement and the trust and focus and benefits and incentives that are being given to startups, and especially women-led startups. There's a lot of women joining the bandwagon of first generation. And that is what makes me really happy because, as I told you, I am on the mentoring panels of these, on the funding panels of these institutes. So I see a lot of these startups and mostly women-led. It's really very, satisfying and encouraging to see that. So things are changing now. Of course, could be because of the government initiatives, could be because of things changing, and that is something very, very pleasant to see. Um, but still, at the CXO suits, obviously, we still know that the CXO positions are still maximum occupied by the other counterparts. So women are still in a minority there. But I'm sure things will eventually, change. Things are gradually changing, but eventually, I don't know when that 50% mark will come. As per some statistics, it'll take another 70 years. So I don't know, but let's see. Time will tell. So that is, I think, I think they're changing in all domains. Service domains, obviously, there has been more diversity. Manufacturing is taking baby steps towards growing in diversity. In fact, I must tell you guys, there's a plant of Tata Motors which is making Tata Safari and another car, which is 100% run by women. It is 1,500 women employed in that particular plant of Tata Motors. It's in the same Vipri Chinswar plant. And that from top to bottom in that plant, it's only women. In fact, right from the workers to top to bottom rungs, they're all women. And they claim to have the lowest accident numbers and highest safety and highest productivity. So we already have an example that is in the market where the whole plant is being run by Tata Motors. And whoever in Tata Motors took that initiative, I think I completely give them huge credit and I have huge respect for them because this is the first company which did that. And I think a lot of companies can emulate this. I mean, you can see the results. And when I went there to see it, I was amazed at the women and the passion and the pride that they had in saying that this plant is all run by women. So I think things are changing, and I think there is scope for more.
So as you just mentioned that you are on various boards and board of member of various committees, and you are an entrepreneur as well. So how do you manage work-life balance?
So I'm guilty of not having a work-life balance, Paridi. That's very clear. I've been a workaholic all my life, but I know what I've done wrong, and therefore I will tell you guys what is that. I think if I turn back time, what I would do, best in this domain, work-life balance. So I've been a workaholic, but I will tell you something which I've seen a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs, my friends who are second or third generation entrepreneurs, or first generation entrepreneurs, and how they're doing it. And I think I'm also trying to learn from them, and hopefully my resolution this year will start someday. But I'll tell you what, you have to have time. Now, started in a small way, I also like to learn the Upanishads, which is the Bhagavad Gita. That has a lot of management lessons actually. So most of our management lessons are derived from Bhagavad Gita. So our Upanishads actually have all of this. So I do attend, I think, about 3 classes a week on the Upanishads, that's Tattva Bodha, Bhagavad Gita, and all of these Upanishads. And you won't believe it. The teacher is a Brazilian. So our own texts, which we don't know, are mastered by these guys. He came and he learned this in the Rishikesh ashram and the Swami Dayanand Saraswati and in the south in another ashram for about 5 years. And now he's taking classes online. So our own Upanishads are being taught by foreigners because they value it so much, because they know the importance of it. So I do that. So that's, I think holistic learning is very important for me, and that is something I do. The other thing is, of course, I would recommend people now. There are so many of these, fitness could be of different types. It could be gymming or running groups or cycling groups or trekking groups. So whatever appeals to you. But any form of, in fact, just before this, I was at this Hridayam. It was a medical association, Hridayam social welfare organization, which was full of doctors, and the founders are also doctors. But they had invited me. So that gentleman, the doctor, he's a senior heart cardiac surgeon, one of the topmost in the country. He's done 10,000 bypasses, and he was saying minimum 30 minutes. You have to give, and preferably in the morning, and 30 minutes a day, and in the morning because that's the best time in the day. Obviously, with all medical reasons, oxygen and other things. I'm sure he's done his research, but morning is what he recommended. And you have to, whatever you do in that case, it could be sports, it could be gymming, it could be whatever appeals to you, but 30 minutes a day in the morning is what is advisable. So I think that is something. And nowadays, what happens is if you're part of these groups, they always push you to, not to bunk. So it's always a person like me, I think I should be a part of some of these groups because then it sort of nudges you and the others push you even if you don't want to do it, but others nudge you to do it. So I think it's really good because that not only pushes you to do it every day, but also you learn from the others. So I have a couple of friends who are part of these running groups and cycling groups and all, and they're so bonded now. They learn so much from each other. They're so, they're learning so much from each other, and plus it's adding to your fitness. So it's like got a lot of benefits. So yeah, that is something I would encourage as well. So that is one, and I would say reading apart from what you already. So I read a lot of automotive related stuff and news and all of that, but you need to make time to read other things which will add value. Reading is something that's a substitute to. So at least spend an hour a day reading if possible. and read something which is going to value add in your life. And I think because reading brings a different dimension to you, it brings a different perspective, and of course, you make much more richer conversations and enlighten and get enlightened. I think that is important as well. So these are few things. The work-life balance, I would say, and it's very important to do it because if you're mentally fit, physically fit, holistically fitness is in place, it adds to your productivity at work as well. So that is important because if you're going to be a workaholic, work 20 hours a day and just sleep for 4 hours, it's not. It's going to eventually impact your health and eventually impact your work. In fact, that's what he mentioned. Only three things that Dr. Rao was mentioning are important. One is sleep, another is diet, and the third is sleep, diet, and exercise. These three things are the only things most important for your longevity and your productivity.
Okay, so as we all are students and will soon transition from campus to corporate, so what are the key traits that corporate look for before recruiting?
So a little while ago, I covered a bit of that, which is I told you the traits that the corporates are looking for. When you actually, if you obviously have work experience, you obviously stand a little more, you sort of have more brownie points there because you already have work experience. But if not, like when I did my MBA, I didn't have experience. I did my MBA straight out of graduation and then I started to work. But now there are, if with show of hands, how many of you all have experience, work experience already? Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. In my times, there was hardly any, when I did my MBA. So it's good to see. Of course, that the people with the experience always have an edge above, us who had not worked before MBA. But the companies are looking for your attitude, your teamwork or team playership, leadership skills. They're looking for you to be taking on more responsibility. So even if maybe you've been recruited for sales and marketing, but you have to be learning other functions as well. Because if you learn other functions, you stand a chance to get rotated into other functions, which teaches you even more. And you should be open to that idea as well. So if I'm working in sales and marketing, sales, I'd like to, be shifted to marketing, be shifted to service. You learn so much because all of the functions that you work in, eventually you'll be honed on all fronts so well that tomorrow if you want to start your own company, it's going to come extremely handy. So again, with a show of hands, how many of you guys would like to start your own companies? Wow, very, very, very impressive. I think, I mean, hats off, Jay. You have a great bunch of students here. I think all of them are so driven and so passionate, and I think um, I'm sure they are all going to excel in whatever they do. Be it first generation entrepreneurs, be it family businesses, be it professionals. All of you guys are going to excel because I see that you all are all extremely passionate and driven about whatever you all want to do and very clear about it. I think that's important as well because having clarity of what you want to do at this age is very important. Fortunately, today's day and age, you have so many mentors to even go back to, talk to them, get a different perspective. We didn't have those opportunities, but now you guys have it. So take it on. Even if you have some doubt, talk to people who have been there, done that. Reach out, ask questions. No question is a dumb question. Ask your questions.
So I'll just ask one last question. Like any final message that you would like to give to women professionals or entrepreneurs?
Women professionals or entrepreneurs, I think more and more women should join. I mean, a lot of them still, I mean, of course, things, as I mentioned, have changed dramatically. I think women, I feel, just should not put shackles on themselves. That's something I keep saying. Even today, as I said, I want to increase diversity in my own company, but there are so many shackles that they put on that, as I said, that I keep counseling them. So my, of course, employees are, but when I recruit also, I see they have this hesitance that I won't travel remotely and I won't stay back. Then they won't learn. See, if you want, I believe in equitable treatment. Guys and girls are equal to me. So if you want to get the opportunities that your male counterparts get, you have to work the same. You have to, rewards will be commensurate with efforts, but efforts have to be equal. So you can't get a preferential treatment just because you're a woman. That is something I completely despise. And I always say, in fact, I feel the women groups should be abolished completely. I believe there's so much learning from all genders. And there's so much cross learning from all genders. Therefore, we should not have women oriented groups at all. We should have only cohesive groups, everybody in it. There's a great amount of learning from everybody. And I think all of us together working for the interest of our country, we are already one of the top economies of the world. But to get to the right to the top, we really work together. We need to work together. I think that's most important.
Okay. So if from the students, if anybody has any questions, you can raise their hands. Jayanka, firstly, very happy Women's Day to you.
Thank you, Vishnu.
And so my question is that if somebody wants to be an entrepreneur, the first thing that comes in mind is taking the risk, like putting a lot of investment. So what? Please give some points like to not fear the risk and take the risk.
So fortunate. What's your good name?
Liu Ghosh.
Ryu. Ryu, today you're in a, in fact, much more better position than back in the day. Like when my father started, he had to, get a loan from the bank, and it was very difficult back in the day and all of that. Now everybody's out there. You have VCs, you have venture capitalists, you have funding partners, you have private equities. All of them are actually looking for good business ideas. They're looking to fund business ideas. Of course, banks are still there, but there are, apart from the conventional banking channels or financing channels, there are other channels today. The other channels are also looking for, in fact, their main business is funding. So they're looking for business ideas, and of course, you have to obviously present to them, you have to pitch to them, and if they see that potential in you and your business idea and your complete business plan, if you have everything in place, then you can definitely get the funding. And it's easier today. In fact, as I told you, I'm a part of these other incubation centers. There are so many of these private equity VCs and all of them that I know who are looking for great companies to invest into. And they actually are doing these things completely professionally, either full time or they're doing it part time. So, working and funding companies both. So today, I think you're in a better position because you have many more avenues to get. And risk is a part of every business. I mean, if my father started the company at that time, imagine what a risk he took. He gave up his 100% scholarship to go to Michigan State University, not knowing, and didn't. My father didn't have a business background. He's the eighth child, and his father, my grandfather, is a school teacher, and then he was a school principal. So there was no business background. Plus, there was no financial background also. How much? I mean, my grandfather was being a school teacher and eight children. You can imagine. The only thing my grandfather did was ensuring all eight children educate themselves. He educated them well. And my father, imagine, gave up his scholarship, started this in the veranda of his house, and then a garage. I mean, that's the risk he took. So risk has to be taken. But do your study. Today, of course, now you have more avenues to research, talk to people, do market survey and everything. They didn't have that luxury that time. Imagine the toughest times they started. Now you're in a much more of an advantage here. You have avenues of research, market research, talking to people, doing your due diligence before you start off. And you have to take the risk. But if your idea is great, funding will come.
Okay. So we'll take just one last question.
Hello. Yes, Jain ma'am. First of all, happy Women's Day, ma'am.
Thank
I'm Pratik
you.
Sharma this side. So, ma'am, my question is how MBA just help you to upscale your business?
How to?
How MBA helps to upscale your business?
Okay. So MBA actually per se brings a lot of, honing of the skills. Now, in fact, you guys have much more of an advantage because you all have many speakers coming and talking to you all. First and foremost, you get exposed during your MBA, firstly to the knowledge, which is a very important. So during your MBA, you actually get to learn different specializations, different domains which are relevant in the business world, which is very important. That plus you get to hear a lot of, I'm sure you have a lot of guest lectures coming, a lot of factory visits organized, a lot of these things done where you learn beforehand. So we didn't have, as I said, when I did my MBA in 2000, 2002, that time so much was not there. But now you all have, if we didn't even have this Women's Day program in our time. So, you all are fortunate you all are getting to, have these kind of programs. So I'd say a lot of industry, academia interaction happening now in today's day and age. And you all benefit from it. I mean, that's something that you should learn and take the nuggets, nuggets of prudence from all the speakers who come, and then make your decisions. That is one thing. And also, it definitely adds a little different dimension to you. And then when you get into your businesses, and that's why I said before joining your family business, you work outside. That is very important. So that there's no, I would say that's a mandate. Extremely important. Like in my brother and sister's case, they didn't work outside. So I tried to teach my brother whatever I learned in my sort of MBA and then he did a mini MBA later. But the point is, it's very important. Masters is, of course, extremely important because you firstly get knowledge as well as a lot of interactions. And this is possibly for many people the last post graduation they do. Very few would do double post graduation and then a PhD. But definitely today's day and age, a post graduation means a lot. Even companies are actually looking for recruiting postgraduates. So now it's an added qualification has again become like a mandate because they know that only graduation is not enough. You will hone your skills better, get more knowledge in your MBA, and then they would prefer to recruit such people. So I think it definitely adds more knowledge, more practical and theoretical knowledge both. Because till graduation, you don't have so much practical knowledge. Like here, you'll have summer training also. You may have other kind of winter trainings or other things as well, where you're actually working. So you're adding practical knowledge to your theoretical knowledge as well during these 2 years. And always, one more thing I would always say take on the opportunity. So even if it's an option for you to do a live project, an option, things which are optional, just do it because you learn so much. These 2 years, by the way, guys, these possibly, as I said, the last 2 years for most people, mostly people don't do, any other studies after this. So make the most of the learning during these 2 years because I'm telling you, this learning will really be useful to you in your life. And whatever, so don't treat these 2 years just for fun. Do, of course, have a great amount of fun because that is a part of MBA as well. But also imbibe and completely grasp, like a sponge, grasp all the learning that is coming your way, grasp all the interactions that are coming your way, interact with the visitors, interact with the faculty, and get all the guidance that you all can get in these 2 years. Because these are the two final years of your learning, formal learning. After this, it's all learning on the job. So definitely these 2 years are very important.
Thank you.
So as we conclude this insightful session, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Jagtap for sharing her valuable experiences and wisdom on making a smooth transition from campus to corporate. Her journey as a leader, entrepreneur, and industry pioneer has been truly inspiring, offering us key takeaways that will guide us as we step into the professional world. Success in the corporate world is not just about what you know, but how you apply it, how you collaborate, and how you continuously evolve. The journey from campus to corporate is not just a transition, it's the beginning of an exciting and rewarding career. We deeply appreciate, ma'am, for your time and the knowledge you have imparted with us today. It has been an absolute privilege to have with us, and we eagerly anticipate your next visit to our campus.
So much, Pariti, and I wish all of you guys all the very best in your journeys for these 2 years. And the first year or second year? First year. So this is great because the first year is would have done this now because then in 2 years now you know what to do and what I think the takeaways will be much more meaningful for you guys. And all the very best and for all the women out here, a very happy International Women's Day. And thank you for inviting me here. Thank you so much.